Thanks for coming on the podcast, mate. You just told me it's your first ever podcast.
It is. It is. I'm a nervous little schoolboy today, Frank. So hold my hand, guide me through it. I apologise for any unfamily-friendly language that I may use. It'll all get edited out, I'm sure.
I will look forward to choosing a nice, appropriate sound to put over that. But I've got you in because me and Barney, we've known each other. We did our original personal training course back in 2008.
Old school, we did. 2008, yeah, 12 years ago that was.
12 years. So we are long in the game, probably too long. Fun times then in Spain, but we could talk about that later. I've got you on because I know you as obviously a great trainer with loads of clients that you help where you are.
Thank you, sir.
But in my eyes, you're a good motivator.
Yeah, maybe, possibly.
I think you get extra out of your clients than the average person would. So I want to ask you a specific question about motivation. So if you know, we get lots of people and ourselves suffer of it as well, dips in motivation for whatever reason. If you hear those words or you sense those vibes, what is your sort of process to help someone get it back? Motivation.
Scream and shout until they cry and then carry on. I think one thing that we probably need to start off with is almost sort of understanding what motivation is and separating it from mindset, I think, because I think if you understand mindset, then you'll understand motivation a bit better. So if you think, I try to think about mindset as being like the foundations for your house. Okay, so we all know if you want to build a structure that's going to last, you've got to have the good foundations in there. You know, the old story of you build a house on the sand and it's gonna come tumbling down. So to me, the mindset is the foundations, and the motivation is like your interior design, basically. So what sort of the point I'm trying to get at, I think if people improve their overall mindset, then their need for motivation becomes less and less. So if you know, you'll probably find, whether they like to admit it or not, a number of people have got like a closed mindset or maybe like a depressed sort of mindset. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but just, you know, over the years they might have heard the same sentence over and over again. Oh, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too, you know, whatever it is. They may have heard it from parents, they may have heard it from their friends. And over time, then they start to tell it to themselves as well. You know, so you'll start to say, oh, well, I can't lose that extra 10 pounds because I've always been this size. That's just me. That's just the way I am. And that then's their mindset. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So their mindset is like it's your view on the world, basically. It's your outlook on life. You know, you'll get some people who are just always happy, always positive, always motivated. Do you know what I mean? And that's not them motivating themselves constantly. That's just the way they think. They always see the good in a situation. No matter what the situation is, you know, you lose an arm and they're like, well, I've still got another arm. There's some people who haven't got either arm. You know, they can always find a positive spin on something, and that's because their foundations, their mindset is sort of higher, is set higher, is more positive from the very beginning. So they're not going to need particular motivation because it's like they're motivated all the time.
Yeah. So you're saying start with that. Start with the root, the foundation.
Yeah.
Which is mindset.
Yeah.
How do you start there though? How would you start there if I haven't got it? And I'm like, oh, how do I get that, Barney? I want it, but I don't know how to get it.
Well, that then just becomes a process like anything else. If you want to, you know, it's like if you want to be good at anything, you've just got to practice it. It's as simple as that. If you want to be good at running, you got to practice running. If you want to be good at a foreign language, you have to practice the language. You want to be good at a musical instrument, you got to practice the instrument. You don't just suddenly pick up the guitar, play something amazing, put it down, never touch it again for 6 months. You know, you have to practice and practice and practice every day. So rather than trying to sort of motivate yourself on specific tasks all the time, right? I need to get motivated to go and have this workout. I need to get motivated to get this project done for work. Start working on your overall mindset. So from like the very minute of the day, You've talked about it before about people have said, oh, how come you're always sort of happy and positive all the time, and you've said, being grateful, which you'll hear a lot of people talking about, sort of having gratitude for things, and that's a really good easy way to start. Whether it's last thing at night or first thing in the morning or both. Writing down 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for, and to start off with, it's sort of fairly easy, and it's almost so easy that sort of an hour later you've forgotten about it. But if you keep doing it every day and you're putting something different down every day, or you're putting the same thing for a different reason, over time it really forces you to pick out the positive in everything. Because to start off with, you're like, yeah, I've got a house, I've got clothes, I've got lights, I've got warm water, I've got family, I've got kids, but and the list is quite easy to start off with. But then once you've ticked all those things off, you really start having to sort of scratch under the surface, and it's like, maybe I didn't earn as much money this year as I'd have wanted, but I've still earned X amount of money. Or I'm not driving the car I want, but I've at least still got a car and I can move around, and that helps me earn money and travel my family around, or whatever it is. And it teaches them to start seeing the positive in sort of every situation, to the point where you can use it almost every minute of every day. You're stuck in a traffic jam, you're trying to get to work, rather than sat there beeping the horn and getting agitated and swearing at everybody, you can sit there and think, well, do you know what, if there's an accident, I'm grateful that I'm not the person in the accident. I'm sitting here in my car, engine's running, heater's on, I've got some tunes on, I've got a podcast on. It's traffic jam, but I can't do anything about it. Getting stressed out, swearing, shouting is going to change nothing at all. So just see the positive side, accept the fact that, yeah, okay, I'm going to be late, but what can I do about it? At least I'm not the person that's been in the accident.
Yes, Matt. So starting with gratitude, but I think what we do, I think probably because it's our job, is we would you've looked at motivation as the end, the end goal, as we say. And you've said, I'm looking at the journey there. And you might be, the person I'm talking to may be somewhere on that journey. We don't know where. If it was the very beginning and they really had no clue how to be motivated, you're going right back to the base, and you're saying a good tactic for a lot of people would be to think of what they're grateful for to start with. That will build some good foundation on your mindset. You'll start thinking like all of a sudden that 2-yard run that you were getting angry about previously is now, hey, I managed to actually go and do a 2-yard run today. I got out of my bottom and I did it. And switching, because so that logical process makes total sense to me. But I'm trying to, I think you've summed it up really well there, is trying to encourage people to think of it more as a process like we do.
Yeah.
Motivation is something we can all achieve, but we need to think of it.
Yeah, that's it. And if you've got a sort of like closed mindset, depressed mindset, however you want to word it, and you're trying to motivate yourself, it's hard to motivate yourself when you've got that type of outlook on life. Do you know what I mean? Like sort of, I don't know, like you think like you've had, say you've had like a really bad week, you've had very little sleep, work's been terrible, your boss has been moaning at you or whatever it might be. You get to Friday, and all your mates want you to go out on a Friday night. Okay. I know you're a bit of a boozer, Frank, and you jump at the chance, but
not these days. I'm right downhill. I'm right downhill.
Frankie lightweight.
The kids don't like going to the pub. It's really annoying,
mate. Education, mate. That's what it's all about. But so by the time you get to Friday, you wake up Friday morning, and it's like your 4th night in a row where you've had next to no sleep, you're stressed out, and you wake up and you just think, do you know what? I'm not going out tonight. I can't be bothered. I ain't got the energy. I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. Going out for a drink or meeting your mates or whatever it might be one of your most favorite things to do. You normally would need absolutely no motivation to go and do that. But because that backlog is built up, you've got to that point where now you're like, I just don't want to do it. Do you see what I mean? So if that week had been better, if your week had been better, if you'd slept better, if you'd dealt with work better, or you didn't have the issues with work, you'd get to that Friday morning and you'd be well up for it from 8 o'clock in the morning. That would be the thing that would push you through the day. wouldn't it? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And a lot of us chase external motivations, which are very difficult to keep going. New Year, we've just had it. That's a classic one, isn't it?
Exactly.
You can maintain sort of false motivation for a given period, and we see it time and again, don't we?
Yeah.
You haven't changed your mindset or your foundations, but you found some form of short-term motivation. Maybe you booked a holiday, or you just had a look in the mirror, didn't feel quite how you wanted to, and you've all of a sudden been able to force a couple of workouts in just through sheer willpower and motivation. But because of that foundation being missed, you inevitably end up like a lot of people at this time of year, giving it all up and going back to square one.
Yeah. So consciously you're trying to motivate yourself, but subconsciously you're thinking, it's not going to happen. I can't do it. But as you've already mentioned before, going for that 2-yard run and that type of thing, I think then physical tasks become a good motivator, which then also becomes a good mindset changer. If you can squeeze out that extra rep, if you can run for that extra 30 seconds, if you can row those extra 10 meters when normally you would have given up, you can just push yourself that tiny little bit more. That then becomes a very good motivator for the next time. As you think, well, do you know what? I was going to give up after rowing 500 meters, but I managed to do 550. So this time I can do 550 because I've done it before. So I might be able to get 600 out this time. And you use your previous experience as a motivator. But then over time, that then starts to change your mindset, because then you start to go, well, do you know what? There was that workout that I did a few weeks ago, which I was absolutely hanging out my backside from, but I did it and I managed to finish it. And if I can do that, then, I can get this work project finished on time. I can sort this problem out, whatever it may be. I think a lot of people sort of don't give their workouts enough credit from what they can do psychologically. If you can push yourself physically in a task, you can take away from that, massive psychological changes. How many clients have you had where, they come into the gym and they're struggling to lift 5 kilo dumbbells to start off with? A few weeks down the line, they're picking up the 10s. But when they were doing the 5s, they were looking at the 10s going, I don't understand how anybody can lift those. Like, I'm struggling to get 4 or 5 reps out of 5 kilos.
Yeah.
And they're training and they keep working out, and before long they're warming up with 10 kilos. Do you know what I mean? And but people tend to then just sort of forget the fact that they were struggling with 5s at one point.
You almost need to be reminded, don't you?
Yeah, you do. People need to remind themselves of what they've done and where they've come from. When somebody's lost sort of 6 pounds and they're moaning because they've only lost half a pound this week and not 2, it's like, yeah, but you lost 6 in the last whenever it was. Or you were struggling to lift those 5 kilos, sort of a few weeks ago, and now you're lifting 10. A few weeks ago, lifting 10 kilos was something you believed you couldn't do, and now you're warming up with them. Do you know what I mean? It's a massive. People should use the gym if they're training with some like gusto to them. That's then a massive sort of motivational tool. You know what I mean? I think people massively undermine some of the stuff that gets done in the gym. It's something, lifting like the 10 kilos is something that you've never done before and something you didn't think you could do, and now all of a sudden you're warming up with them. I mean, that's massive in terms of like life-changing events. I mean, that's huge. People think because they're not deadlifting 500 kilos that, oh well, it's only 10 kilos. It doesn't matter. It's relative to you. It's the scale that you're at. You've doubled the weight that you can move. That's huge.
And that's where having someone like you next door to you or with you is so valuable. But what I've really become quite aware of is the power of community and who you look at and listen to every single day. I'm really, really big on this one, because I don't know what it is about our lot, and working with people online has changed how I've viewed all this. Because you get a sense of people when you're with them in person quite easily, whether they need a push or they need a bit of a lift. You get that. It's harder through what I've sort of done now with online stuff, and the language that we use or promote within our community now is always that of, what have you done well today? What's better? It's never a judge of who's the best, who's the fittest, who's this or that, which is the same in a gym environment. Like, you could choose to look at everyone who's fitter than you and make that feel negative, or you can choose to look at the people that to you are inspiring, or to you give you good positive reinforcement. And I think we all have a good, easy choice now of being surrounded, or at least viewing different people every day, certainly with social media. Because I know you're on there, I use it. I think a lot of people view people that don't encourage that positive reinforcement and remind them that they are doing well, which is what we've just said you need. And I think an action for lots of people right now would be to consider that. Who are you with? Who are you listening to? Who are you inspired by? And is it positive? Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Something I learned from the great Charles Poliquin about 12 years ago. In fact, one of the first courses I did was that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if your 5 people that you spend the most time with are
a toddler,
bit lazy, a toddler. That's why I've got the mental capacity of a 5-year-old, mate, because that's who I hang out with. But it's, if you're hanging around with people who are lazy and don't push themselves and not motivated and not bothered about particularly doing well and all the rest of it, that's what you're going to become. How often do you see people who physically look really fit and really strong hanging out with people who are morbidly obese? Or how often do you see, multimillionaires hanging out with people who have, maybe only got a couple of grand in the bank? I'm not saying that they don't, but the time that they spend the most, the people that they spend the most time with are those who are of the same sort of paint pot, if you see what I mean. And yeah, it's exactly like you've said. If you're, and I've said this to my clients before, that one of my consultation questions is, what's your family and what's your social circle like? If you're somebody who hangs around with people who are going to say, oh, are you still doing that stupid diet? When you're going to go back to eating normally, why don't you just have another couple of drinks? When you're trying to lose body fat, when you're trying to stay off alcohol for a little bit, when you want to swap your chips for your veggies at a restaurant and things like that, they're going to drag you down. Unless you've got a real good mental capacity to just fight above it, they're going to end up dragging you down. And that's also then why you have to be careful who you choose to follow on social media, for exactly that reason. If one of your 5 people that you spend time with is social media, then you need to make sure that you're following the right sort of people. If you scroll through my Instagram feed, it's nothing but people like Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, The Rock. It's CrossFit.
Yeah, we all follow The Rock.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but it's because they're good, they're motivational people, they're inspiring, they're all about hard work, and they're not about cheating the system, and it's all about putting the graft in and all the rest of it, and also celebrating what you've done as well. Going back to being grateful, they all talk about having Tony Robbins and The Rock, they go on about that sort of thing all the time, because then it just chips away at you every day. There's I can't remember who said it now, but motivation should be basically like bathing. If you have a shower every day, you should motivate yourself every day, rather than just, I need to motivate myself, reading a motivational book and then not reading another one for 2 years. It's not going to last. If I read a Spanish book and then don't read it again for 2 years, I'm not going to be very good at Spanish. Well, I think we learned that when we were on our course back in 2008, mate. My Spanish is probably still the same level, to be fair.
I could order 2 beers. That's a proper one. No problem.
That's it, mate. That's the one phrase that I've got.
It's the only one I've reused.
Exactly. Even when I'm by myself. Mate.
So I think that you've actually summed up motivation in a very good way that maybe some people haven't thought of like that. And let's try and summarize what you've said. Motivation starts with some foundations, really, doesn't it? If you truly want motivation and long-lasting motivation, which is the important point, you need to go back to your foundations, which in your head is mindset. And I think that is absolutely right. A productive tool you could use instantly is to just write down what you're grateful for to start with. That's a good tool. You can also choose who you are spending your time with and who you're looking at, who you're listening to. And if they are people that are of the ilk that you want to be, i.e. motivated, pushing forward every single day, they're going to help you achieve that.
Yeah.
And these are the steps you should take before you look for some other short-term motivator, whatever that is. Like, for instance, someone said to me they want to go 4 weeks without eating chocolate, which could be a motivator, could be.
Yeah.
But my fear for that person was, why? I said, why do you want to do that? Because they said, I love it so much. And I said, well, if you truly love chocolate that much, where do we think you're going to end up in 4 weeks? What's the best case scenario here? What is the best? It might be a motivator, even if you've got a tick chart on your wall to tick off. I didn't have chocolate today. That might work. But have your foundations around chocolate and whatever been changed? Are you better off just learning to accept that you love chocolate? And using it in a different way? I don't know, but it'll go back to foundations.
Yeah, because the phrases that she's using, I love chocolate, it's part of her, it's part of her DNA, it's part of her makeup. That's why so many smokers struggle to stop smoking, because they see themselves as a smoker. Oh, well, I am a smoker, I've done it for 10 years, it's what I do, it's, you know, I go for a fag at 10 o'clock every day, it's part of my routine, it's part of my anatomy, it's part of my makeup. As soon as they start to realize that I'm not a smoker, it becomes very alien for them to smoke. You know, if you're not a smoker and I say to you, right, come on, let's go for a fag, you'll be like, no, I don't want to do that. Why would I do that? If you're not a drinker and I say, come on, let's go for a beer, it's just going to be so alien to you to even, you know, even think about it, let alone actually physically going to go and do it. So again, that goes back to that mindset, that sort of default mode. Oh, I love chocolate. That's what I do. You know, I love carbs. I had somebody the other day saying to me, I can't possibly eat a meal without carbohydrates in it. I was like, you can. You actually physically can. It is very physically possible for you to sit down to a plate of meat and veg with no rice, no potatoes, no anything on it. It's absolutely very easy to do it. But you believe that you can't do it. It's in your sort of DNA that, oh, I can't do it because I can't do it. I love carbs. You see what I mean? So
I do,
again, so that's.
So are they eating? What are they doing now? Are they in Pizza Express as we speak, or where is this?
Yeah, they're over the road at Taco Bell, I think.
Nice.
But yeah, it's that mindset. It's how you talk to yourself. It's how people talk to you and how you talk to yourself. One great thing that I heard was, be careful how you talk to yourself because you're the only person listening. And it's that. And if you keep saying to yourself, oh, well, you know, I'm this, I'm that, you know, you end up believing it because you're just telling it to yourself all the time. I was on a course, I don't know, 10 or 11 years ago. It was a anatomy and motion course, and it was all about biomechanics and how the body moves and all this type of thing. And we were talking to this woman, and as she was talking, about every sort of fourth sentence, she said, oh, well, because I'm dyslexic, and it was then, you know, I'm struggling with, you know, some of the biomechanical language and that type of stuff. And I remember the guy who was running the course, Gary, he just stopped her literally mid-sentence and said, have you ever thought that you're dyslexic because you keep saying, I'm dyslexic? And she just, it was like, what? It was literally like he just pushed her over. She didn't know how to reply to it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying there's, you know, you can just say, oh, I haven't got this and it will suddenly disappear. But there are a lot of things that people keep telling themselves that if they stop telling themselves, it would change things drastically.
I'm on board with that.
I'm on board with that.
Yes.
Lots
of people literally speak to themselves in the morning. That's why these meditation apps and all the tools you've got now are so popular, because we're not doing that. We're not telling ourselves what we want to, you know, physically practicing.
Yeah.
Changing who you want to be, or
because telling ourselves in the mirror that we are great and we are the best football player and we are lean and just sounds weird. It sounds hippie, voodoo, magicy, wacky bullshit that's not going to work. Yet all the people who are amazing at what they do, all the best athletes, all the best financial guys, you know, business women, whatever, they do that. They do that all the time. They have these little mantras that they repeat to themselves all the time. So if all these people who are amazing at what they do this type of stuff, well, surely there must be something to it. They can't just all do it and it not work. There must be something behind that, that idea. And there is. There's been loads of studies. There was one I heard of a few weeks ago where they took a load of housekeepers from hotels in America. They did a study on about 10 hotels in America. They took about 100 of these housekeepers, and they took their body fat, their weight, their blood pressure, recorded how happy they were at work and all this type of stuff. And one of the questions they asked them was, do you think you get enough exercise on a daily basis? And something like 70% of them said, no, don't get any exercise. Bearing in mind that these housekeepers are working 6 to 8 hours a day, up and down the stairs, hoovers, cleaning, they're burning 300 calories an hour, which is a pretty good gym session in all fairness.
Yeah.
And they're doing it for 6 or 8 hours a day. They're burning thousands of calories a day, yet they don't believe that they're getting any exercise. So what they did in this study was they just gave them a little presentation to say the amount of physical hours that you're working meets the government standard for, X amount of hours of exercise that you should get every day. And because of that, you should then see physical changes like changes in blood pressure, changes in body fat, and all this type of stuff. They literally just gave them a presentation. That's all they did. They then left them to go back to their normal lives. It was something like 4 weeks later, they came back and tested everybody, and literally everybody had lost weight. The body fat had gone down, the blood pressure had gone down, the cholesterol had improved, and something like 90% of them said that they were more happy at work, just because their mindset had changed, because they then sort of believed that they were basically getting paid to exercise for 6 hours a day. And then look how good they're going to be if they do all this exercise. Because that mindset had changed, then physically their body started to change because of what their brain was telling it.
And it was all very clean as well at the same time, triple bonus.
Exactly.
It starts with mindset. It does. Yeah. We get people who say, I'm not an exerciser. And I say, that normally riles me a little bit, because I will go the other way then. That's one of the words I say. If you say that, you're never going to do it. I'm not an exerciser. Who is an exerciser? What is an exerciser? Yeah. You are an exerciser. You just moved. You just walked to me. That's it. You are an exerciser. Yeah. Gardening. Oh, you're an exerciser. Housekeeper. You're an exerciser. Yeah. Mindset, wording. You can change that. I believe it. Yeah. I believe it, Barney. I'm with you. Yeah. Where do you get? What do you? I see lots of books in the background where you are. I'm in awe of your intelligence. Always have been.
That's the one clip I'm going to use from this entire podcast, mate. And I'm just going to repeat that every week. That's fine. It's good. That's me done. I can retire now.
Do you have any books you can recommend for people? Because my recommendations are Wayne Rooney's autobiography, Harry Redknapp, I'm reading at the moment,
and Spider-Man colouring book for
yeah. So my recommendations aren't great. Do you have one that's like really in your mind stood out as a book that you read and you went, you know what, that one made me think differently? For the less motivated right now, you say, read this, mate. That could be the start.
Do you know what? Loads. And the different motivators and different mindset changes for different reasons.
Right.
So
picked one up though. What is it?
I have picked one up. This is a really good one. The Daily Stoic.
Okay.
By Ryan Holiday. So I've been doing quite a bit of like Stoic type reading in the last few years because I don't know. It just helps. It's the mindset thing. The Stoicism idea is that effectively live every day, because you will die at some point. I know that sounds a bit dark, but it's to remind you that everybody's going to die, but not everybody's going to live. And it's all about then having that positive spin on things. Again, going back to I've lost my arm. Well, I've still got another arm. I could go and visit a load of people who haven't got any arms or any legs. And all of a sudden it changes your perspective on things. So the good thing about that book is they take loads of old sort of like Roman and Greek Stoic manuscripts and things like that, and they take passages from it, but then they convert it into like the modern day approach. So there's 365 pages, so there's like one page. You can read it one page a day, or you can just read through it and pick out the things that relate to you. Do you see what I mean? So they'd get like some sort of passage from like Marcus Aurelius or something like that, and then they'd convert it into modern day by saying, what he meant was X, Y, and Z. Nice. So one of the things that sticks in my head was the story of a monk who had his vase in his house, and it was just like his most favourite prized possession that he owned, because he didn't really own a lot. He was a monk, he didn't have very much, but he had this one really nice vase. But he understood the idea that one day he might not have this vase. He might lose it, it might break it might get stolen, or he might die, and therefore he wouldn't be able to see this vase again. So the idea, he developed this idea, this mindset that as much as I love it and I can cherish it every day, I also accept the fact that one day it's not going to be there anymore. Lo and behold, one day somebody came in, stole the vase, and he wasn't upset because he knew that day would come. He didn't know what format it would come in, but he knew that it would eventually come. So then in the book, then they talk about, you can take that to then whatever scale you want to. You can take that to the biggest scale of all, and being able to accept the fact that one day people are going to die. And as hard as that's going to be at the time, if you've become knowledgeable, really knowledgeable that they are going to go at some point, you'll enjoy your time more with them, and when they do go, it's not as much of a sad event. Do you see what I mean?
I do.
So there's some,
and that would start those thoughts, and then you'd start the gratitude stuff. It would naturally happen, wouldn't it?
Exactly. I mean, that's a big, deep sort of premise that we got into. It's not sort of health and fitness, but it's general lifestyle.
Did the monk do any lunges? That's what I want to know. Was he lunging at all?
I think he was king of squats. I think he was king of squats.
How could a monk exercise?
It was a squat man. It's a squat man,
and probably really good as well. We've ruined it with time and technology. We've ruined it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Great. When I watch the kids now, the toddlers, their squats are perfect.
That's how we should all move, mate. That's how we should all move.
We lose it somewhere. We lose it. Life.
By doing what we're doing, sitting down on our backsides.
Doing podcasts.
Yeah, we should do podcasts while we're lunging. That's what we should be doing. We'll do that next time.
Yeah, why don't I do that?
There'll be a very short podcast though.
Well, that's a mindset. That's a mindset you can change.
That's true.
It will be a 20.
But do you know what? But you know what? It is. It is because you get to the point. You know this, and I'm sure you've told some of your clients before that your brain will give out before your body does.
Did you see that bloke? Well, there's lots of long plankers going on at the minute. I've seen a lot of.
There's a lot of planks in there. A
lot of planks going on. But there was an older guy who's just done it, and I don't know if he's English or American, but he spoke a language I recognise. He's just done 8 hours or something planking. What do you think of all that?
Waste the time. Waste the time. Well, you know what I mean. You can always take
sheer mindset, isn't it? That obviously he's strong. He's got the ability physically, but to get to that level, I mean.
But to get to that level, he's gone through a lot of processes of pushing that a little bit extra further. Always. Any of your clients, going back to the lifting 5 kilos or lifting 10 kilos, they'll have gone through that moment of, I can't do one more rep, and they just force that one more rep out. They stop listening to the brain. The brain's saying, that's it, you're done. They stop listening to the brain, and the body can push one more set out. I sometimes say to people, when you've been training, your legs are like jelly, and I can't really walk, I can't do any more, I can't do another single lunge, or I can't do another single rep. And I'd say to them, look, if your car's set on fire, or you saw somebody cross the road, like one of your mates getting hit by a car, you'd be off. You'd be sprinting. Do you know what I mean? Because their mindset now will suddenly change. The mindset isn't, oh, I'm really tired and I can't do any more squats. Their mindset is, holy shitballs, Batman, what's just happened over there? And it's been trying and it's able to do that on a regular basis, to switch that off and go, I can get a few more reps out, I can get a few more meters out, I can get this workout done today rather than leaving it till tomorrow and probably putting it off again tomorrow. Just
mindset, man.
Yeah.
Mindset. Yeah. You said it at the start. Foundations. That's the podcast, mate. That is it.
Yeah.
Before we go, I need to ask you because I see Satori Health, I see your boot camps, I see the work that you're putting in with your clients, and you, man, you're in cracking shape these days. I think you probably always were, but you are. What's your training?
Smoke mirrors and filters, mate. That's what Instagram's about.
What are you doing now? What's your exercise routine these days?
Do you know what? Actually, about a year ago, I actually got fed up with doing all the standard gym type stuff, and I started watching loads of CrossFit stuff and seeing what those guys were doing. And for the last year, I've been doing that. Because I also wanted to learn Olympic lifting. I've never really given myself the time to learn Olympic lifting, so that was one reason to do it. They're just all machines, mate. All of them, the men and the women. The workouts are horrible, but they're just machines. They're all in amazing shape, and they just talk about mindset. I mean, man alive, you need to change your brain if you want to do that type of training, because
that's it though, isn't it? That's why CrossFit's so good, because you're normally in packs, it's groups, isn't it? The workouts are like that, and it's that whole thing, isn't it? All of a sudden, you're in an environment.
Totally. If I go and train at the CrossFit box near here, I definitely work a lot harder than when I'm training by myself, because you've got that little bit of extra motivation, you've got that little bit of extra push. You're like, I could do with stopping right now, and the 14-year-old boy next to you is lifting double your body weight. You're like,
yeah,
I've got to keep going.
So true. And people wonder, because we're personal trainers, they go, oh, you're always motivated, you always know how to exercise. And I argue it's probably being in the gym as long as you are puts you, if anything, it could become a downer. You're like, I can't be bothered to be here for another hour. What do you mean? So finding new things, what you're saying, like that, you said you got bored of traditional gym stuff. I go through that process all the time. Like I said to you, I've been climbing this week. I went through a phase of loving swimming.
Yeah.
Football's always been there, gym's there. I'm now exercising in these slippers at home. You have to just shift, don't you?
Yeah. Just keep changing. I wouldn't advise changing so often that you don't get any progress out of anything. But at the same time, if you find yourself not enjoying it, why are you doing it? If you're not enjoying the food that you're eating, if you're not enjoying the exercise that you're doing, you're never going to stick at it. You're just not. And I don't mean, don't get me wrong. I like halfway through my workouts, I'm not like, yeah, this is great, man. I am hanging out of my a-hole. I'm swearing at myself. I'm cursing. I'm like, why the hell am I doing this? But I'm doing it because I love the results that you get down the line. It's, trying to clean and press 80 kilos is, I can't be bothered doing that. But then when you've done it, you're like, yeah, man, that was amazing. And then you go back.
And that's 85, then it's 90. It just keeps moving.
Yeah, exactly.
There
exactly.
You go. Well, I love
like you said, people think, oh, we're highly motivated. I'm dragging my ass to the gym all the time. There's loads of times I'm like, I can't bother to work out. Just can't be bothered. But and I think when you're like that, I think one of the best things to do is go. Just get yourself to the gym. Get in the car. Whatever you're doing, walking to the gym, cycling to the gym. Just actually get in the door. Because once you're in the door, then you're like, I'm here now. Might as well do something. And then just start. Even if you just have, I'm gonna do 5 minutes on the rower. I'm gonna do a bit of mobility work. I'm gonna do a bit of stretching for 5 minutes. And then that 5 minutes goes, okay, right. I've warmed up a little bit now. That's a good time to also work on changing your mindset, motivating yourself. There's nothing wrong with short-term, motivation, like finding a video on YouTube or, reading a quote or whatever it might be. There's nothing wrong with that if it helps you, have that little hop into what you're about to do. But if you keep relying on it all the time, you're going to have to keep changing it all the time. And you're going to end up spending hours and hours on YouTube trying to find the right motivational video to get you fired up. And by that time, you could have had 3 workouts in that 3 hours you spent on YouTube. You could, don't you? Because YouTube's just a rabbit hole, isn't it? It's just a million rabbit holes.
Yeah, I end up there all the time. But I would put you down as someone that I follow. And I don't follow many people on the Instagram, certainly not in the, I don't know, I just don't. But you're always up early doors, you see. So then I think, okay, he's up early. I'm going to be up early.
Yeah.
So I'm going to recommend. Where do people follow you, man? If they're on the socials, because that is where we do.
Instagram. I'm Satori Health _UK on Instagram, or just Satori Health on Facebook. I'm not a Twitter man. I'm not a whatever Snapchat man. I'm not a whatever. I just do
Facebook. On TikTok. You're not down with the kids on TikTok.
I don't even know what TikTok is, mate. I'm too old for that. I'm on granddad clock. That's what I'm on, mate.
TikTok. No, I had a look, and it was even for me too far. And I can lower myself quite happily.
But not that low.
Cheers, mate. Yeah. I fully appreciate it. I think we've got some good gold out here today. I'm going to play it to anyone who's feeling down and not motivated. Give them a little kick up the bottom. Tell them to follow your stuff. You'll rise them up like a salmon.
It's good to see similes are still on board, mate. That's good. I like it.
Cheers, mate.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on. I do appreciate it.
First of many podcasts.
I hope. Mate. Yeah, mate. Thank you for taking my podcast virginity. You were very gentle with me. I appreciate it.
I try.
Cool.